silly season is upon us, and I felt like we seldom get surprised in this business because you always hear rumors and undercurrents and chatter, and there are people just communicating on the coconut telegram, and they're letting you know what's going on in the back scenes. But Brad Gillie, when it came down last week that Justin Haley was leaving Kaulig Racing and going to Rick Ware Racing, that one surprised me. I had no word of that happening.
Justin Haley has been such a big part of Kaulig Racing that really surprised me as well. Don't know how those deals happen, where the money changed hands or anything like that. Maybe Ford wanted him. There are a lot of different things that are going on there, but I think a lot of people looked at that and looked at the history of both of those racing organizations and go, Kaulig Racing's kind of moving up, and Rick Ware has been fairly stagnant for a while. Maybe this says something about Rick Ware Racing that they actually want to start fielding competitive cars on the racetrack. But that was a big surprise. That was a seat that I don't know a lot of people expected to open up in the 31 over at Kaulig.
Alexis, your thoughts on that? I mean, Justin Haley's not a huge player, but Kaulig's a fairly highly regarded team, and Rick Ware Racing is not held in that high regard. No, I'm not defaming anybody, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a winner. He's a winner in the Cup Series. And you look back to even the Chicago race a few weeks ago, he was leading laps, and it looked like he might get himself another win in that race. Certainly a step back, unfortunately, for Justin Haley. We don't, as Brad said, know everything that's going on behind the scenes or really how those decisions were made. But yeah, it's disappointing for anybody out there that's a Justin Haley fan, because Kaulig, I think, is definitely a much better ride, a much better seat, and we'll just have to see, who finds themselves there next year.
Now, RWR, I love saying that. They do have an alliance.
I'm glad you can.
They do have an alliance, Brad Gillie, with Brad Keselowski,
Roush.
RFK.
Yeah.
So, and they're banking on that. They're under the same roof. So they're thinking maybe they can put together enough critical mass there to make this team competitive. And I've got to think that there's some funding that we don't know about.
I would agree. I would agree with you. Yeah. And to your point, Rick Ware, they moved over to the campus of RFK Racing right over there in Concord, literally across the street from where the NASCAR Tech Center is. And again, maybe there is a play. Maybe Ford wanted to bring another driver into their fold. And when you look at those alliances, RFK also has the alliance with Front Row Motorsports. And there's no question that Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher have been running better this year. They're both well in playoff contention. You were talking about Michael McDowell in the last segment, how well he has done this year. And look at the other car over at Front Row. Even though David Gilliland hasn't been in it every single week, his performance has been up. And the races where David Gilliland has not been in the car, Zane Smith has jumped in into one race here, two race here, whatever it might be. And I think he's done pretty decent. So maybe there is something that's really being elevated out of that campus as well that appealed to Justin Haley to make the move. Don't know.
I would hope so. I like Justin Haley. How good a driver is he? I don't know. I mean, he has one win. It was kind of a fluky win at Daytona. He seems to run well on the high-speed racetracks. Outside that, frankly, he doesn't have much of a resume. But we'll see. I've got to think that somewhere in the background there is a deal that makes this sweeter than what it appears. Alexis, you mentioned Michael McDowell a moment ago. Likeable driver, has a win in the Daytona 500. His resume, too, could use a lot of fleshing out. But he's not hurt himself this year.
No, I think he's done a lot to prove himself this year. I mean, when you think about, that team and how they're probably not, certainly not as big as the really well-funded teams. And he's in the top 16. He has raced his way in. He's had some great races on road courses. We know he's really great on road courses and had some other really great performances too. And so, there have been some rumblings, don't know exactly all of the details, but that perhaps he could find himself in a better ride, next year. So we'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, he's going to say, let's pay attention to what's happening this year and continue, our efforts to stay in the top 16 and make the playoffs and see how far of a playoff run we can make. And that's only going to build his resume towards what could possibly be something different for him in 2024.
What's the something different? You can't just do that. You got to pay that off.
I don't really know. I mean, obviously, I don't know, when you think about cars
Aric
that are coming
Almirola leaving?
available, yeah, Aric Almirola, that's a Ford, obviously. But I've just heard rumblings that he's somebody that they could be. I mean, there's been articles written about it that he's somebody that's being looked at as a potential veteran talent that can go over and, to another team and hopefully, excel their program, whatever team that is. I'm not exactly sure yet because obviously, nothing's been announced. But there are rumors.
Yeah, Brad, does Bacon Boy leave and we send Michael McDowell over there?
So if we're moving all the pieces around the chessboard, look, Aric Almirola was going to leave at the end of last year and was talked into staying. I could see him leaving again, or this being the year that he leaves. And if you look at things happening at Front Row, a lot of people have talked, well, maybe Zane Smith goes over to SHR. Zane Smith was hanging around at New Hampshire, by the way, and the Truck Series wasn't racing there. So he was there for a reason. But Front Row has said, look, we're the ones that hold the keys to Zane Smith. He is under contract with us. So I could see Zane Smith moving up with Front Row, Michael McDowell being available, and quite honestly, maybe it makes sense for Stewart-Haas. They are going to lose Kevin Harvick. If they lose Aric Almirola as well, those are the two most tenured drivers they have at that organization. So you need someone who's been around for a while. And I'm not saying Michael McDowell is the guy that can win anywhere, but he's proven that he can be competitive at a lot of racetracks, and his input could help you and be very much needed in a big, big way.